I think people do equate this HRV, this metric, often with speed. And so one analogy is our heart rate's the speed, right? Like a car speeding, that's our heart rate. HRV is not the speedometer. It's more like the suspension, right? So car with good suspension adjusts constantly to the conditions of the road. So every bump is, there is a reaction, and that's what our heart is doing. We want it adaptive. We don't want it rigid.
Yeah, like suspension, exactly. And because it just helps us to be able to respond, and we know that it's got its eyes on the road. We know that our our heart is actually paying attention to our body and what our mind is thinking and all those lovely neurotransmitters that get, shut off. So, that being said, for those of you who have a wearable, then it comes down to, well, what is this number and what does it mean? And it can be a little bit, every day that number is going to change for what it is for you because, depending on where you're getting that biofeedback and that data from, it really looks at a trend, like a 24-hour trend, but some of them even take more time to look at those trends. And I can't say how much time because each of them are a little bit different, but it's important to make sure that that your HRV is impacted by, so if you're somebody who's healthy and you work out and you exercise a lot, that's awesome because we know that that's good for our cardiovascular health. We know that working out is good for us and we know that getting, cardiovascular exercise is good. However, we need to make sure that we're also on the flip side recovering our body, resting our body afterwards. So there is stuff that you can do that you can overtrain your body. If you're really focused on, you know, losing weight and a goal like, people after New Year's when they're like, I'm going to go to the gym 3 times a day or twice a day to really, burn out extra calories, you can actually be doing a real detriment to yourself to jump into that.
Mhm.
There's a reason that elite athletes, they monitor all this stuff because they need to
Yeah.
know when they're overtraining and when
Yeah.
they need to step back and recover because actually your body does better when you're recovering. That's when, the muscle is transforming and, from fat and not transforming, but converting. That's when your body is starting to actually really do the work that it needs to from the hard work that you put into it.
That recovery also obviously is incorporated into our sleep. So when we are overtraining, our deep sleep, where we repair, can suffer. So these are all connected.
Right. And
They
that's
all contribute to the ultimate number that we find, that variability over time.
right, because when we're not sleeping enough, we're not eating healthy, or we're overtraining, our autonomic nervous system is just out of whack.
Yeah.
And it really does a lot of damage. I know there's this whole mind body connection and all these things that, you kind of hear and you're like, oh, yeah, your HRV is really an actual piece of data that is reinforcing that. If we are, doing the right things for our body, which is hard to do. It's hard to live your life, work, do all the things that you need to do to be a human. If you're a parent, if you're an animal parent, an animal parent, all the things that need to get done in the day. And remember to meditate and eat the perfect amount and, drink all of your water and get in exercise. You know, it's a lot, and sometimes even thinking about that stresses people out.
Yep.
That'll set you back. But it's important to get that recovery and to sleep and to make sure that we are, listening to our bodies. And it's hard to listen to your body with an HRV. You can't really listen.
And we, like you said, all right, we want some balance in our busy lives, but there's things that we can reduce, if not stop. Like, for example, alcohol abuse, probably the most dramatic and immediate suppressor of our HRV. Even like 1 or 2 drinks per night can crater that morning reading. And
100%.
so you're talking about, okay, I can meditate and I could make my training a little more balanced. I don't have to go too hard, too little. But this one is obviously, that is a one that you can change. I'm not saying it's easy if you have an issue with it, but if you're wondering why it's tanking and you're like putting back half a bottle of bourbon every night, might want to put 2 and 2 together there.
But even if you don't drink a lot and you have one drink, it still impacts
Yeah.
your circadian rhythm and how you sleep, and so you don't get that deep sleep, and those of
Yeah.
us who are over the age of 40, um, That's a big impact factor.